Welcome to Crypto Disrupted. I'm your host, Trent Lipinski. I'm here with Scott Smith. He's with Royal Legal Solutions, and we're here to talk about the legality of cryptocurrencies and how that interacts with, investors and, anyone who wants to invest in crypto and what the legalities of that look like.
Thanks, Trent.
Scott, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're working on, your background?
Yeah, so I'm 33. I'm an attorney. The company, my company is actually Royal Legal Solutions. We have about 25 people in the company right now. We're going super fast with about 10% per month in growth right now. And a lot of it has to do because of what we're doing is really on the cutting edge of where do this law and tax strategies help influence investor decisions. So what we're doing is actually enabling investors, no matter what assets you ultimately decide to invest in, how can you be doing that better with a better foundation or better tax advantages than you otherwise would. So it's really exciting work. I'm really excited to have grown this so rapidly. And like today, for example, I have some cool strategies I want to share with you guys about how as a cryptocurrency investor, how can you do cool stuff like invest with tax-free money? Is also like if you have other assets, like how would you protect them if you do make a ton of money? And also how can you hide the assets? So if anybody ever looks to try to sue you or to come after you for any reason, they can't find out what you own.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love for you to just dive into it. What are your tips here for crypto investors, and what kind of investors are you seeing with your law firm, and what are you looking at right now?
Yeah, so the typical investor that we work with is usually almost exclusively real estate investors. I'd say it's like 95% of people, because real estate investors are totally screwed when it comes to lawsuits when they own property in a personal name. Because what happens is it advertises to everybody else in the world that, hey, I got all this stuff that you can come after, and you know how much money's there, right? So it's like they hold up a big sign that says, like, please sue me. So those are the people that are hyper motivated to be like, whoa, I better protect and hide my shit. But then everybody else in the world, like for under, I would say like $1,500, you'd be able to establish like a company, like an LLC in a strong state like Texas, Delaware, Nevada, or Wyoming, that you just put all of your assets into. And then like if you get into like a car wreck or somebody like wants to sue you because they like say, hey, you breached like our agreement or company agreement, or you breached a contract or whatever that's going to be, they can't take any of your stuff. Like they could sue you all day long, but you don't own anything. And the coolest part about that is they can't even find out if you, with the way that we structure it, that you even own that company. So it looks like on paper that you qualify for food stamps, which I think is pretty cool because nobody sues somebody that qualifies for food stamps, right?
Well, and I think it's important to note that this is how a lot of people manage their wealth. This is a really common tactic in the United States, especially for people who do have a lot of assets and do have a lot of wealth to manage. On paper, they're poor. By design. And, it sounds like that's, one of the things that your firm essentially helps them, how to manage these assets and how to set these things up legally, because really it's not like I don't know. I don't want to use the word loopholes, but, this is kind of how the system is designed.
The system is designed to protect people that have money. Like that's America. Like welcome to America. We protect people that have money, right? And that's kind of like the sick joke of a lot of things that happen that are really kind of icky that happens like in the criminal field. But in this kind of context, the system's designed to be able to say, these are the laws that exist, and that anybody that happens to just have the knowledge to use the tools is able to do it. It's not rocket science, right? It's just once you learn how to do it, then it's pretty easy to actually put together, which is why we do it for so many people. Like we have over 1,000 clients across the country right now that use us to help them do this kind of stuff. So it's like we look at it and say anytime you have over, say, $50,000 is about the level that we say, okay, now it's time to start protecting it. Because anything less than that, somebody's not going to sue for, because it's just not enough money to go after to risk the lawsuit, right? But then after that, for a pretty small amount of money, you can be like, okay, cool. Now all my shit's protected for the rest of my life. Glad I took care of that. On to the next thing.
And how has crypto played into your strategy and what you're seeing over the last couple of years, and how did you get into crypto?
Yeah, so I mean, I got into crypto probably when most other people did, right? When it was like, you have your buddy at the gym. It's like, hey, man, you got to start buying this stuff. It's crazy. It's like about a year and a half ago for me. And I've done quite a bit and working, quite a different cryptocurrencies, and I've been really interested in it. But I wouldn't say that I'm the foremost expert in crypto, just in general. But like the pieces where I got first, turned on to is because clients were asking me about what do I do with my crypto assets. Like I know I should protect like my cash, and my stocks, and my house, and like whatever, right? But should I be worried about my crypto? And the answer to that was, because they're like, oh well, it's hard for anybody to find out anyway, right? But what they didn't know is that at the end of a lawsuit, that you actually you have to disclose somebody a list of assets that's in your name for them to go take, which kind of seems shitty, right? Like you just beat me up in a lawsuit, and now I have to make it easy for you to go take all my stuff, right? So like otherwise they throw you in jail if you lie about that, which is kind of shitty. But that's what we started doing. I said, okay, cool, we'll just go ahead and move it over, as a legally titled, the name of your LLC as your asset holding company, and then we're good to go on that front of it. But what got me really excited about crypto work and like real estate work was how people can use tax-free money. If you have any W-2 income, you can actually take all that money tax-free and then use that for your investments. And what we calculate is it gives you about a 30% bonus in your return on investment automatically, just because you have tax-free money.
Yeah. So let me get this straight. So you're actually taking the crypto assets themselves, so whatever crypto someone owns, and then putting it under the LLC. So then if they get subpoenaed or they end up in court, they don't have to list it as an asset. They would just list that they're an owner of that LLC.
Right. Yeah. And you can't take somebody's ownership interest of their LLC. That's the protection that an LLC offers you. By disclose it, you just can't touch it. But
and they'd have to sue the LLC to get a list of those assets if they wanted to go after the LLC, because technically it's a legal entity of its own.
Exactly. But most of the time, the LLCs for your asset holding company won't engage with anybody else in the world. They're not entering into contracts. They're not making representations. There's no way you can sue the LLC itself because it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
So you isolate all of the legal liability to yourself and say, okay, you can sue me all day long, but you can't touch the other thing because you have no connection to the other thing, which is the asset holding company.
And I see this a lot with property owners. This same strategy works for property ownership if you own real estate. A lot of times they own LLCs, and they put the properties under the LLCs, and that way you don't know who owns that property. So essentially, you're doing the same thing. You're using the same strategy that is used by people who own physical real estate for digital crypto assets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's 100%, because it works exactly the same. To be able to do it, right? And I find a lot of people that are involved in the crypto sphere like the idea of being able to own things anonymously. They don't like people to be able to find out what they own. And a lot of people are also right now using what's known as a series LLC all across the country. There's only like 12 states you can form these types of companies in, but you can use them anywhere, just like Delaware LLCs are used anywhere. So we can form them up in Texas, and then what you can actually do is create an infinite number of LLCs for free on your desktop after forming a series LLC. So people will do it as like independent contract, like a contract that they want to get into for one of their businesses. They'll form up an entire like new company for free to enter into that one contract. So if that contract goes sideways, like nothing happens to them, right? So I mean, like there's all kinds of strategies people are using really aggressively to like use the law to their advantage.
So you could actually in that situation, the one LLC could potentially, that LLC could be dissolved. It could be shut down. It could file for bankruptcy, that LLC. So or that particular LLC, you could essentially have a situation where you can leverage that to prevent them from coming after the rest of your assets.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because if anything, with the series LLC, it's like a parent-child relationship. So you have this parent LLC, and it has individual children that it can create. Each child is treated as, for liability purposes, as if it's own LLC, but they're free to create and they don't cost you anything more every year. So like if somebody sues child series A, right, because it was in that contract or own that piece of real estate or anything else, they can't come after B, C, D, E, et cetera, or yourself. So it's like you can compartmentalize all your liability out for free.
Yeah. So what other tips do you have for crypto investors?
Yeah, sure. I think everybody's head probably is like spinning right now with how quick I talk through these concepts. But you know, this will be a pretty short podcast just in general, and so it's like, oh, you'll have time to listen to it like 2 or 3 times to pick up. You know, um, so the other piece that a lot of people don't know about is that a lot of people have money locked up inside of retirement funds, like with their IRA, right? So typically how IRAs work is that you have the money parked there and then some custodian just invests it like in a Vanguard fund, you know, and you make like 3% per year on it or something, right? Then there's like another way to invest in an IRA fund that's called like a self-directed IRA. And what that is that now you could tell the custodian, hey, I want you to go buy this particular asset, like a piece of real estate or you know, whatever, right? Whatever it is you want to invest in. There's some prohibited transactions that are in there, like you can't buy collectibles, right, for example. But you can buy a lot of different stuff. Then there's this thing that's called a self-directed IRA with checkbook control, which is what we set up for people, which has some insanely low yearly fees, like has the lowest yearly fees of anything, and it gives you as an investor 100% control of the IRA funds to use yourself without anybody's approval or anybody else to sign off on anything you do. So what does that mean for a crypto investor? Is that you can then take your retirement funds that are tax-free, and then you can actively trade them inside of the crypto markets because you're not yourself, right? So that's pretty neat. Like because otherwise you would have to rely on you know, all these other people in play that would really make it impossible to actively trade. But the key benefits to that though is that like all of the gains that you're going to be making by buying and selling your currencies. All of those inflow into the IRA, and then all of those are tax-free for you, and until you hit the retirement age, right? So it's like a really cool way of saying, okay, I can leverage that retirement account to, make better returns and have a better retirement, whenever that comes up, right?
So just to clarify, so basically what you're doing is you're setting up, this IRA, this retirement fund, and then you're able to then take those assets within that fund, spend them tax-free, since you're not cashing that fund out until retirement, and then go trade them in crypto. So instead of giving them to like a hedge fund or an investment fund that would then invest them for you, get your 3% gain per year or whatever, you're now actually managing that money yourself, and you're managing in crypto. And then you're keeping it all within that fund, so then it's all tax-free.
That's right. Yeah, 100% tax-free.
And then you wait until your retirement age to cash it out, and then you're able to cash it out and potentially not pay taxes.
Yeah, when you cash it out, you won't pay taxes as long as you hit retirement age, and you don't get taxed all along the way, right?
That is a neat trick. I think a lot of crypto investors might be interested in that one.
Yeah,
because it basically lets you build your own retirement fund without having to essentially trust the existing system.
Yeah, don't trust the system, right? Like, where do you know your money is getting put, right? And then the problem with that is that the problem with the other solutions to that is that everybody else is then eating fees off of you, right? So, like, the name of this game is actually, like, how do you invest tax-free, and then how do you reduce your fee structure as much as possible? So, and then how can you offload all of the work onto you? That's how you build it up the quickest. And that's what that solution does. It's saying, like, I'm going to take full control. I'm going to minimize all my fees down to be able to create this tax-free money. The problem with it is that the caps of what you can contribute every year to it is only like $5,000. But there's another solution that exists that allows you to contribute a little more than $50,000 a year. If you have non-W-2 income, you'd be able to use that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
And people should be using a lawyer to structure all of this, correct? Like, this should not be, you should not be doing this solo, right?
Yeah, well, no, you could, right? I think that there's nothing a lawyer can do that a layperson, we call them lay people in my industry, I think mainly to sound really egotistical, but that's the standard. There's actually nothing that lawyers can do that you can't, right? The only difference between somebody that's a lawyer and yourself is that they've just spent a lot more time reading really specialized books about like one particular category of thing, right? That's why lawyers are like specialists. Like, you don't hire a business attorney to represent you in criminal court, right? Like, it doesn't work like that.
I think lawyers had to sign an ethics agreement as well or something like that. But the typical person hasn't signed one of those. So.
Yeah, that's a dubious thing. But Well, I look at it as saying it's like, yeah, I'm an attorney and I have a bunch of experience doing this stuff, but like, really I look at it as just saying I make money off of being able to find really efficient ways to help other people make more money with what they do. And that's kind of the basis of the business model. And that's why we're growing so quickly, is because I'm not trying to make a bunch of money off of one person. I want to help 10,000 people. How do we do that really well? So that's kind of the basis of where my head is at with that, of that. And so it's really like an efficient process for us to set people up. But the cool part about that second strategy I was talking about is if you can find a way to get non-W-2 income. So like in any way possible that you have non-W-2 income coming in, you can actually set up what's called a solo 401k. Solo 401ks are amazing because with the non-W-2 income, now you can be like start your own company and say that you're self-employed in some fashion and you have no employees, right, besides yourself. Yeah. Then what you can do is you start your own 401k with your own company, and you can contribute like $50,000-ish into it per year, totally tax-free. So that's so much cooler than the IRA if you had the cash to be able to do it. Not a lot of people have an extra 50 grand, but some people do, right? Or even a lesser amount, like even 10 becomes really cool, right? Because you just saved yourself, if it's $10,000, you probably saved yourself about $3 grand in taxes just by contributing to your 401k. Your own private 401k, right? Cool part is now I get all 10 of that $1,000 to be able to invest tax-free. Super neat, right? Same advantages as the IRA in that regard. What's even cooler than that, though, is I can take half of that money I contributed, loan it to myself, and use that money for whatever I want. So now I have $5,000 in an investment account, and Scott gets to spend $5,000 on an amazing ski vacation or buying a boat or whatever I'm going to do with it, right? Or just living my life, wherever it's going to be. So like that's the difference of saying like I got $5,000 instead of 7, like if it was taxed, right? But now I got only 5, so it's not as cool, kind of as cool as 7, but I now have a bonus 5 that's now in my 401k that then I can use to be able to buy crypto or whatever I want. And that's how you build that long-term wealth, right? Is by like, okay, cool. Which I think is kind of crazy, right? Like I can create an retirement account that use the money immediately with. Like that doesn't make sense, like why that exists like that. Like why would you create that loophole? And then I was like, oh yeah, it's because the rich people still want to use their money with all the benefits, thinking that they're going to make a lot more money later on, and so they'll pay themselves back, whatever, right? So, I mean,
and it creates essentially almost like a debt cycle loop to yourself. So basically you're using the same trick that a bank uses, but the debt is owed to yourself instead of to the bank. So, and then is there terms on when you have to pay that off, or like, can you just say, I'll pay it off in 30 years?
Yeah, well, you have to pay it off like before you retire. Otherwise, you get penalized on it. But you get like, that's a huge window of time, right? Like, if you get to retirement age, you might have an issue, right? But like, that's not even guaranteed, I was like, I mean, that's cool. So it kind of like hedges a little bit of that. But like, there's also like the other cool stuff, Trent, that I like didn't realize, because most of the like, I was telling like my friends about this. Like one of my friends owns like a solar screen company, so he's self-employed, and he puts screens on the outside of houses to like help people save money on energy, right? And he started, so we set him up with a solo 401k, because we were having a couple of beers, and I was telling him like, dude, you got to do this thing, because he had like credit card debt, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, I got all this credit card debt I like need to pay off. I was like, why don't you just set this up, pay your credit card debt off with tax-free money, and then wait 30 years to pay it back, instead of paying all the monthly interest on your credit cards, right? So there's like all of this cool stuff you can do that puts you up into this way better financial position that like almost takes zero work, right? It just takes like a little bit of action to be like, okay, I'm going to have to go learn something for like 4 hours of my life that's going to like not be fun. Because it's like legal and finances, which is not super fun. Like investing is super fun. It's like maybe I'll make a bunch of money, right? But legal and financing is definitely kind of a downer. But I try to jazz it up a little bit for you, mainly take off all the headaches, so that way you don't have to really suffer through it. What you got to do there, but yeah, man. I mean, it's like the people that I know, almost like everybody's doing it if they possibly can, right? Because it's it costs you like under $1,500 to get everything fully set up. But then like, even if you have a little bit of income coming in, even in the first year, like the savings on taxes always pays for itself. And they're super easy for me to set up, so I can charge, like, in legal terms, that's all like relatively nothing, right? But it's still expensive, right? But in terms
and
of,
where can people find you?
oh yeah, so my website is royallegalsolutions.com, or you can give us a call at 512-757-3994, or you can shoot me an email to scott@royallegalsolutions.com. And I got my own podcast, the Real Estate Nerds Podcast, where we talk about like the human side of what it takes to be an investor, which is kind of neat. I think it's cross applicable to crypto or whatever's going on, because it's like what happens to you as a person when you're like excited about deals, and how can that like totally screw you over being too excited, and also like why it's necessary to be excited, otherwise you never do anything. It has like a lot of interesting kind of things that we pick around. But,
and any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, man, I think I gave you a pretty good brain dump for what I got going on right now. But thanks so much for
that was awesome. I appreciate you coming on. If you got any more tips in the future, I'd love to have you back on the show again. And yeah, this was enlightening. I think it's important for people to figure out how to use the existing system and the existing legal structures to their benefit, and how to apply that to what's happening with crypto and crypto investing, and figure out the best strategies for being able to manage their wealth.
Yeah, man, I think so, right? In a lot of terms of it, the way I think of it is saying, like, even if you want to live outside of the system, 100% on board with that. But the reality is, if you're living inside the system, learn how to use the system so you can get outside of the system, right? So, I think it's cool. I mean, I'm down to hit you to talk anytime you want to. If you want to learn more about how I see really smart people all across the country making shit tons of money, I don't necessarily involved in all those deals, but I get to see them, and happy to talk to you about how they're doing it. I think it's really cool. because to me, like, finances is a puzzle, and it's a really interesting puzzle of how do you figure that out and do that well. So I'm all about financial freedom. So anyway, let's kick it sometime here in the future, and it'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, right on, brother. Good to hang out with you.